Hello and welcome to the M.B.Om podcast, where you'll learn to master the business of yoga. M.B.Om is a proud part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, a yoga business coach, and a total business geek. Here at M.B.Om, you'll learn everything you need to know to create a sustainable yoga business by learning from myself and guests from around the world about how they built their yoga businesses, and about how you too can become a successful yoga teacher, studio owner, and much more. All right, let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the M.B.Om podcast. I am super excited that you're joining me for today's episode of the show. And this week on the podcast, I'm joined by Joanna Sapir. Joanna is a sales expert who works with entrepreneurs to help them with their businesses. And I had Joanna on the podcast quite a while ago now, and we did a little bonus episode for M.B.Om behind the scenes, which is what you're going to get to hear today. And this episode is all about how to get out of the freelancer or contractor mindset and start considering ourselves business owners and entrepreneurs. And this is something that I teach to yoga teachers is when you become a yoga teacher, yes, you're probably working for lots of different yoga studios and studio owners, community centers, but just because you're working with other people doesn't mean that you're not your own business owner or entrepreneur. And so we really need to get out of the mindset of being or considering ourselves freelancers or contractors and really shifting our mindset to thinking about ourselves as business owners and entrepreneurs. This will make a huge difference in how you treat yourself, how you think about yourself, how other people look and feel about you, and ultimately how many students and revenue you bring in. So I know this work can be super challenging. This is work I've done myself over the years in my own business, but it's also an important shift to make, and Joanna has some awesome tips for how to do that. So without further ado, here is Joanna, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome behind the scenes, Joanna. I'm really excited to have you here with me.
Yeah, it's special behind the scenes.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to do this little bonus episode with you. You and I just had a really fun conversation about sales processes, what to do, what not to do, all of that good stuff. And I know one of the things that you kind of mentioned in the interview and also that we chatted about before we hit record is kind of this idea of, as yoga teachers, we sometimes think of ourselves as like contractors or freelancers. And we're really thinking about I make X amount of money for a yoga class or X amount of money for a private. And we're really selling time for money with classes and sessions. And I know one of the things that you teach is kind of refocusing this a little bit. So I was wondering if we could dive into that a little bit today and just talk about some tips and tricks and maybe even some mindset stuff for how we kind of get out of this like freelancer contractor mindset.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have any specific questions or you want me to just go?
You can just go for it.
Okay. I think that, I think it's just so normal and understandable that when we start a business, we think like, okay, I just have to get clients and I just have to, fill my classes. And where I would start with to move out of that and really step into leadership of your business is going back to why you decided to become a yoga teacher, why this has been some calling for you. And where did that come from? You have a story behind this. There is a reason. You probably went through some kind of transformation yourself, right? And felt called to help other people through that transformation. And the question is offering people a class going to create that transformation? And I've never had a practitioner say, yeah, one class, right?
It'll change your life forever.
Right. So the idea, of course, is that, well, if they come to one class, and this is why people often offer like a free class or the free month, the unlimited month of classes or whatever, the idea is that like, well, maybe they'll get hooked, and I hope they'll get hooked and, get into it. And so I would just actually challenge that idea and just say, why are you doing this? What is the transformation that you want to bring people through? And what would actually do that? And it's never a class. a single class, and it's never even a pack of classes. So what is it for you? For you, what is the path to the transformation that you want to provide people? And to start thinking in terms of that. And so now you're not thinking, I just need people in this class. You're thinking, who are the people? How do I provide this transformation for people? So that's the first thing I would say. And that really goes to that designing the journey and designing your program, your plan, your package, however you name it. And let's see, where can I go with that? Pricing. Mentioning this, your pricing, you want to be based on, I mentioned this in the podcast interview, on profitability for your business. And the way you figure that out is by looking at, it's actually simple math. It really is simple math. It's how many client-facing hours do you want to have in your life? So that's a different question than in a freelancer mindset. We might say, well, I want to make, $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, whatever it is. And so if I'm charging this much, then that means I need to have this many classes or sessions available. And so that's kind of backwards, right? And that's where we end up with practitioners who will get totally burned out, because if their business takes off and they're feeling that, like, they can be burned out. We want to start instead with what is my ideal schedule in my life? We're all in health and wellness. So your own health and wellness is pretty important to have time for, and your family and relationships and so on. So what is your ideal, work schedule, and where are the client facing hours, and how many are there? And so you take that number and you then put that against how much money do I want to make? And again, it's simple math. It's like division. I want to make $10,000 a month. And this is how many client facing hours I want to put into my business. And you divide that and you end up with essentially I call it a base hourly rate. And your base hourly rate is not something that you're ever showing to clients. You're never charging an hourly rate because you're not charging for your time, but instead you use that base hourly rate to map out the cost, the investment of what that journey you designed, that program or plan you designed would cost. And so when you enroll people in this, you're giving a total price. It's not an hourly or per session thing. It's an investment for, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is, 3 months, whatever it is that you design. And of course, payments can be made in intervals. There could be monthly payments, but you're actually quoting the investment as a total price. And that moves you out of that, trading time for dollars thing. Instead, your clients, it shifts the entire conversation into really results and commitment. It's really commitment to the process in order to achieve the goals that they have, or get rid of the pains or problems that they have. Many of the people I work with are in more therapeutic forms of yoga. And so really people have actual, health issues that they're trying to address. And I have to say, on the client side of things, it feels amazing for a client. It feels amazing for a client who is serious about reaching their goals to make that investment. It's a huge relief to feel like, I just chose this program and invested in it, and now I'm taking care of myself. So I know as practitioners, we can get freaked out. The mindset stuff you're talking about, it takes practice. Like, you have to get in there. One of the things I do with my clients is once we've determined their pricing, they've designed their packages, and then we determine their pricing. And these numbers are just often, if they had been charging session by session, the numbers for, a 6-month program are so much bigger, right? So they're going from something like, $100 a session or whatever, if it's one-on-one, to something like, $3,500 or $4,500. And so we actually practice just saying those numbers out loud and just getting comfortable with them and just getting comfortable with them. And you have to be. And so there's plenty of courage involved in doing this, but I've led so many people through it. And after you enroll your first person in it, that's where you're kind of over the hump and you go, I get it. And it is truly, when I'm saying how amazing it is for the client side, it really is. It's an amazing, amazing thing for the client because they feel so good about deciding to do this. And then you have somebody that you know now is committed for real. And it just makes such a stronger bond than you'll ever get with a class by class or session by session approach.
Hey there, yoga teacher. Are you somebody who teaches regular yoga classes but doesn't offer a membership? Well, when you start to have a loyal group of students who show up for you week after week, creating a membership is a great way to transition to reliable income that you can count on. You all know that I recommend Offering Tree as your online yoga business one-stop shop, and that's because Offering Tree makes it easy to set up and grow your membership. When you use Offering Tree, you can create memberships that include unique bundles of classes, courses, and on-demand offerings. And you can set up as many memberships as you want. You can charge clients monthly, annually, weekly, or choose your own billing cycle with Offering Tree's membership tools. And if reoccurring payments don't fit, you can also sell packages that can be refilled when needed. This is just one of the perks of using Offering Tree. So even if memberships aren't for you, check them out, see if maybe this might be the right platform for you and your business. It's an easy, all-in-one tool to host your website, schedule classes and private lessons, and of course, sell memberships. And I have a special discount for you. Head on over to offeringtree.com/M.B.Om for 15% off 1 year of Offering Tree or 50% off the first 3 months. Once again, that's offeringtree.com/M.B.Om for a special discount on Offering Tree. All right, now back to the episode. Amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. That's such good stuff. And yeah, I think that pricing and talking about your prices and maybe offering prices that are like higher than what you have been offering can be a really uncomfortable conversation at first, but I think it just takes practice like everything else. Like, I mean, teaching your first yoga class was probably uncomfortable too. We have to do uncomfortable things for them to feel more comfortable. And I completely agree with what you're talking about with charging for profitability and making sure that we're, really serving our clients. And I think that's a place that I come from when it comes to, the packages you offer and even talking about what you offer to people. It's like coming from a place of service. And like you mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation, most people are not going to get the long-term benefits of what you have to offer them of the yoga in one session. And so you're kind of almost doing your clients a disservice by offering only one session, if that makes sense.
Yes, I totally agree. Yes. And you're right. It can be very comfortable at first. So it's just so important to know, like just like positions in yoga can be uncomfortable at first, right? And just think of like how over time, how you get more and more comfortable. So at some point as a business owner, you have to start to recognize that like, when I feel uncomfortable is actually like the perfect place to be. Like that means I'm on the edge of growth. Like that discomfort is, there's something magical in it. And sometimes you got to go straight to it. But yeah, it takes practice and just, yeah, that's the tip I have is just saying those numbers out loud. I even, when I have a client who, let's say it ends up like what they've designed is $3,800. So I have them say it out loud a few different times. We say it in these different ways. And then I start bumping it up and saying 4,300 and they repeat after me. And then I say 4,800 and they repeat after me. So it goes higher and higher and higher just to kind of feel how actually arbitrary it really is, and just kind of get used to it in their body, like talking in these numbers. And like I said, then 6 months later, after they've kind of learned all this and started enrolling people, it feels like nothing, this is just what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for everything you've shared today, Joanna. Can you share where people can go to find you if they want to learn more about you, maybe work with you, all of that good stuff?
Yeah, my website is where to go, joannasapir.com. It's Joanna and then S like Sam, APIR. On my homepage, there's a couple different like free things to opt into. And one of them is that I have a monthly practitioners business roundtable. That's a free event where we meet for an hour, and sometimes it's topically focused, like has a very specific topic, but sometimes it's just open Q&A, and you can bring your business questions. And it's for practitioners of all sorts to ask questions about business.
Cool. That sounds awesome. I will make sure there's a link to that in the show notes, and just want to say a huge thank you for your time and all of the goodness that you shared today.
Yay. Thanks for having me.
All right, friends, I hope that you enjoyed that episode of the podcast with Joanna. If you like the style of short, sweet episodes that have never been heard before about really specific topics, make sure you go check out M.B.Om behind the scenes at patreon.com/M.B.Om yoga. I would love to have you over there with me. And of course, a big thank you to you for listening to the show today, and I will see you next week. Okay, bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of the podcast. To find links, notes, resources, and everything mentioned in today and all episodes of the show, you can head on over to mbomyoga.com. You can find the podcast and myself on Facebook and social media at Mastering the Business of Yoga. And I would love for you to join the private Facebook community, Yoga Business Badasses. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please make sure you reach out to me at info@mbomyoga.com. And last of all, if you enjoyed this episode of the show, please make sure you hit subscribe and leave a review for the podcast. It would mean the world. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.